Hi guys, my name is Matt Horan, and today I am going to be ranking every Metallica album. Every studio Metallica album. Now, my list might differ from other lists, so you can hate on me all you want, but this is just my opinion. Okay, let's get right into it. Keep in mind, this time I'm going to be using the actual CDs, that way I can, show you to demonstrate what the album looks like, on the outside, pretty much, the album cover. Um, of course, I only have 9 of the 10 Metallica albums, so again, hate on me all you want. So let's dive right in. So, coming in at number 10, I just want to get this one right out of the way. We have Saint Anger, for obvious reasons. You know, I have to say, there are only, I don't know, like 3 songs on the album that I care about. I never listened to the full thing, but I can already tell that it is just a hate beyond repair. I mean, I would have to say my favorite song out of the bunch would be Invisible Kid, which has, a very low tuning, but at the same time it sounds pretty cool. Other than that, the whole trash can sounding snare drum didn't quite hit me in my music boot, but it does sound like a Metallica album. It's just not that good. So that's our number 10 spot. Coming in at number 9, we have Reload. Now, the thing I like about this album, it's got a few decent songs on it. Uh, Let me get into it real quick. The song Feel was a little overrated, but still good. Memory Remains, a little overrated, but a little better than Fuel. Unforgiven 2 is just an amazing ballad. Uh, I wouldn't necessarily put this at a high spot, though, because, I mean, it's not necessarily as good as most of the other albums. Sound-wise, I can get down with it. I'll give them that. Coming in at number 8, we have Hardwired to Self-Destruct, their most recent album. Now, I have to say, it is a good album. And I will explain more. Yeah, please excuse me if I'm slurring too much. I'm kind of thinking as I go along here. Every song on the album is actually very good. There's a few I can even get down with. The only thing I don't really like that much is the sound of the drums. You know? I mean, I know this album is ahead of Reload, but even I can admit the drum sound on Reload was better than the drum sound on this. But again, these songs are a lot better than the stuff on Reload. Even better than the stuff on Saint Anger by a long shot. But, I mean, plus this album kind of sounds like what they sound like live. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily consider a live album, but it's very similar. Yeah. Coming in at number 7, we have Death Magnetic, their comeback album, which is quite better than Hardwired because it's just got some amazing tracks on it. That opening track, you know, Unforgiven 3, of course. The closing track, My Apocalypse, is probably, I wouldn't say it's their most aggressive track, but it's definitely up there with Dyer's Eve. Anyway, I think this is a more thrashy record than Hardwired. Definitely because of the sound. Plus the songs on this one, are long, to kind of replicate, what a lot of the songs that they did back then. Suicide and Redemption, of course, is an excellent instrumental piece. It's probably their longest composed original song by far. It definitely does sound like, how do I describe this? I mean, the part that goes like na 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 na. That part sounds like something that children would listen to, which is very nice actually, because like if I mean if a lot of younger kids listen to Metallica, more than I do, I would be pretty proud of them. And there are a lot of young Metallica fans out there. My advice for them: Enter Sandman can't be your only song, kiddos. So, speaking of Enter Sandman, this brings us to the number 6 spot on our list, the Black Album. This is actually an amazing record. My only gripe about it is how vastly overrated it is, and I feel like it's an insult to a lot of Metallica fans who prefer the original thrash sound. I mean, I do like the sound of this album a lot, and it does have some pretty good tracks. I'd say the more aggressive tracks. Sad But True is a good track, but like I said, that's a little overrated. Holier Than Thou, is that how you say it, is very aggressive. Don't Tread on Me, another great tune. Of Wolf and Man. Of Wolf and Man is one of those songs that I prefer on the S&M album. But again, great song. God That Failed. Oh my god. That's like the first time they introduced E flat standard tuning. It was a surprise hearing it on this album, I will admit. Alright. Number 5, the album that you did not expect to be ahead of the Black Album. Load. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. But bear with me, I have a lot of good reasons. This is such an underrated album, I cannot even begin to describe it. It's got some amazing songs, like, you got Ain't My Bitch, The House Jack Built, Bleeding Me, Wasting My Hate, Thorn Within, Outlaw Torn, just amazing songs, This is an album I can definitely get down with. I don't know why you guys are hating on it so much. This definitely deserves to be ahead of the Black Album by a long shot. Like, long shot, But the Black Album is still good, not gonna lie. It's just not as good as Load, in my opinion. Y'all can say whatever you want. Again, I don't care what kind of comments I get. Just know that. Alright, we're getting closer to number 1, people. If you do not like these upcoming Metallica albums, then I don't know who the hell you are. I don't know why you listen to Metallica. Please get off my page. Of course, I am kidding. Everybody has their own preferences. But seriously, come on. These are like the 4 best albums in their whole discography. Anyway, coming in at number 4, we have Ride the Lightning. People are going to gripe about this one too, but let me explain. People say that this is, one of the greatest thrash metal albums of all time. I mean, I can agree with those people, but I wouldn't necessarily put it, up there with greatest thrash metal albums of all time. But it is a good album in its own right. Cliff Burton contributed a lot on this album. He's an amazing songwriter. He was a really great bass player. He had that style that nobody else had. Every song on the album is absolute killer. Like, I mean, every single song, the next 3 albums, I'm going to say the same thing about, because every single song from the debut up to 88 is just killer. I mean, this album in particular is probably, I mean, it's the first album to feature on the list that's ahead of all of those other mainstream sounding albums. Well, mostly mainstream. But yeah, absolute great album. I would have to say my favorite song on the album, I would have to decide between Fight Fire with Fire and... Let me think. It's hard to pick a favorite, but like I said, I think my top 3, and these aren't in any particular order, but I would definitely go with Fight Fire with Fire, Trapped Under Ice, and definitely the Call of Cthulhu. Creeping Death is a good song, however, though I think it's a little overrated, just because of how often it gets played, by Metallica live, or just how often people listen to it. Which is another reason why this album is number 4 and not higher on the list. So I'm going to get a lot of gripe for that one. So the next album on the list is Kill 'Em All. Hold up! Did you seriously think I was going to do a Metallica album ranking list and not include Kill 'Em All in the top 3? You guys are nuts if you think I'm not going to do that. I have a lot of explaining to do if we're going to get behind this. I would have to say this is the most raw record out of the discography. Some people might not like the sound production. I, however, think that it's very good, The drum sound is amazing. The bass, the bass drums are not as hearable as the other drum parts, but you can hear bits of them, which is kind of cool. Same thing with Ride the Lightning. You can't really notice the bass drum sound that much. But I would have to say, this album started it all. It's probably their thrashiest record. Aside from Master of Puppets, which we will get to soon. And it's got some amazing songs, like I said. Just Anesthesia, Pulling Teeth. Probably the greatest bass solo of all time. It's such... I remember listening to this album for the first time, and I thought to myself, man, this album is just... It can stop any hailstorm. And I really mean that. So coming in at number 2, we have And Justice for All, which is definitely up there. I have to say, this is, most people see it as a more progressive metal album. It's got a mixture of thrash, heavy, prog, nice technical songs. Because, especially, Blackened. A lot of people think that Dyer's Eve is the hardest song that Metallica ever wrote, but I personally think that there are songs that are substantially harder than Dyer's Eve. That main riff is a lot easier than a lot of people think. I would say, Blackened, for example, is harder than Dyer's Eve. What else? Frayed Ends of Sanity, that's got some technicality in there. Of course, To Live Is to Die, instrumental piece written to commemorate Cliff Burton, who passed away a couple years before then. There is a poem that is written by Burton. How does that go? Here. Of course, I'm not going to bore you with reading or poetry. If y'all want to look it up or something, go right ahead. I just don't feel like reading it. And finally, at number 1, we have Master of Puppets. This is not only my favorite Metallica album of all time, but it's also my favorite metal album of all time. It's my favorite metal album. It's my favorite album, period. It's just... Like, this album pretty much got me into Metallica. I don't care if One was the first song I listened to. This album just started, everything, I mean, every song on the album is absolute killer. The sound production is amazing. You know, I mean, you can definitely say that it feels kind of like a live performance when you listen to the album. You know, Master of Puppets, probably one of their greatest songs. It actually is their best song. It's my favorite song of all time. You know, Orion, which is definitely one of the best instrumentals that anyone has ever written, you know, courtesy of Cliff Burton. The guitar parts are nice. The bass solos in the song are just nice. Nice, nice! Oh man, I would melt my mouth all over this album if I wanted to. If I could, I'll do it right now for you guys. uh, it's also been a while since, it's been like 5 years since I bought this. The the inside of the case isn't holding up so well. Neither is the outside. Yeah. But the original mastering is just amazing, and I have to say that it is their best album. So, we finally made it to the end. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite Metallica album is, and I will see you next time. Oh, and be sure to subscribe. See ya!